Hey, how's it going? It's now Sunday. I wound up binging BoJack Horseman instead of recording more. So, I'm picking back up, training Gastley. I was at a party yesterday, so I didn't get to do any recording. I guess I could have done some in the morning, but I actually wound up watching, rather than a horror movie, which I should be doing, I just instead watched Glengarry Glen Ross, because the other day I'm gonna continue talking about my Halloween list, but I watched The Devil's Advocate a couple days ago, and it's just really got me in an Al Pacino mood, even more than Halloween. Like I kind of want to watch Scent of a Woman now, but I really love, um, Al Pacino in a lot of the movies he's in. Carlito's Way is like one of my favorite ever. But I actually just got done watching my short since the second year I've done it. I didn't do it the first year, but since the second year I've tried to watch a short film in addition to my 31 horror movies. Some of them include, Treevenge. That movie's ridiculous and stupid, and everyone should watch it. You can just search it on YouTube, I think. I watched a short film called Into the Woods or In the Woods a couple years ago. Or no, it's just called The Woods. I've watched the Sleepy Hollow short. The first half of the Adventures of Ichabod Crane and what is it? Mr. Toad's Adventure, the Disney film. But I just watched the Sleepy Hollow short, which I kind of consider a short film. I kind of consider that movie two short films stuck together. Anyway, yeah. So every year I don't know if I know I talked about it. I know I mentioned that I've talked at some length that every year I watch 31 horror movies. I don't know if I mentioned that every year I try to make them unique, and like for about 4 years now I haven't watched the same movie twice. Or if I do, because I kind of want to watch Pumpkinhead, but I watched that the first year and I might not count it. Because it's more about also finding new movies and stuff like that, so I don't want to keep watching the same shit over and over again, or I could watch the same, probably 20 movies every year. I could probably just, keep watching The Fog and The Thing and, that kind of stuff, but I want to find new ones too. So I talked last time about some of the ones I watched, and I left off on Terrorizer. But I also watched, since then, well, not since then, but the movies I've watched after that. I've watched Bad Moon, Horror Express, I saw Insidious, Frankenstein Theory. I really don't like found footage movies that much, but that was the first of two I've seen so far this year. I always end up watching one every year, and I'm not a fan. This one was okay. The last sequence was pretty fine, but I feel like they all, kind of lend themselves to the same kind of, to me, attitude of why would you still be filming this? Why? At some point, I feel like you put the camera down, in a real life situation, and then it becomes weird and unreal. Normally, I don't really consider, I gotta keep documenting this, a legitimate reason to, hold on to, a handheld camera while you're running from monsters, But, I'm gonna get back to that, though. Because the other one I watched, I actually kind of hate to say it, but I liked it, because I don't think it's a movie that I'm supposed to like as much as I did. But I saw It Chapter 2, that was my one in theaters. I actually still might see The Lighthouse. I'd like to still see The Lighthouse, maybe after work someday or on Halloween. I saw both the original 1988 and this year's remake of Child's Play, because I like every once in a while, you know, comparing a remake to an original. So I haven't done it much throughout the past 4 years, but I did it this year, and I'd like to maybe do it in the future with some of the, you know, Last House on the Left, or although I hated both of those movies the first time I saw them, but it's been a couple years. Maybe Both of the Hills Have Eyes, stuff like that. And then once I finish like the regular Nightmare on Elm Street series and Friday the 13th series and Halloween series, I'd like to look at like some of the remakes and later, you know, sequels and spin-offs. Ink. I saw Ink. Not really a horror movie, but it felt, you know, fitting. That's a very weird film, about like going into dreams and stuff like that, and you know, death. American Psycho. Watched American Psycho. Great movie. I love when he's going on like the rants about like the Phil Collins and what's the Huey Lewis in the news. Poltergeist. I actually did not like that movie. I know that's considered like a classic, but I found it kind of dumb. It felt like it ran more like it was a horror movie that ran like a fantasy. Like it would be. There were just like these long slow parts, and then like action just kind of happened. Like think of when you're watching like Lord of the Rings or the Dark Crystal or something like that, and there's like these world building parts, and then like action just kind of happens, like, you know, the villains show up out of nowhere or something like that, and it just becomes kind of an action sequence out of nowhere. That's what this felt like. Like the haunting scenes didn't really progress. Like they didn't get more intense. It was just like 1 minute they're talking about like where souls go after they die, which would be like the world building part, and then like a ghost just like shows up, or like a haunting just kind of starts happening. There were no like kind of creepy scenes or anything. It just kind of like jumped right into everything. And like a lot of time the characters acted more with wonder than with fear until like the final third. Like that mother was so excited when that chair moved on its own, and it seemed ridiculous. Like anyone in their right mind would be scared. I don't know. It didn't like feel right to me. But then I watched Candyman, which is a classic, and everything was fine. I watched The Canal. That was interesting. Devil's Advocate, as I said. You know, on top of, what? I was just saying, like, won't affect me else, huh? Shit. On top of Al Pacino, like, Keanu Reeves is another actor that I want to delve more deeply into after watching the John Wick movies. He is really good sometimes, and I don't know why I don't like think of him as a good actor. Maybe just because like The Matrix, he was a little, I don't know, a little goofy, and then and then like I also think of him as you know, Bill and Ted. I guess The Matrix isn't goofy, but I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's not what I would consider a great, you know, performance. So Devil's Advocate. Diary of the Dead was the other, you know, found footage movie that I watched. And I liked it, like, a lot more than I thought I would. Why am I solely using, like, just because I had heard that, like, I love the original Living Dead series, you know, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, but well, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, if you're trying to watch them in order. Night, Dawn, Day. But then, you know, when, you know, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead were all coming out, all I heard was how bad they were. And, like, compared to the original three, none of them are anything special. They're not as good as the original trilogy. But, you know, Land of the Dead was, like, kind of bland, but it was fine. I could put it on in the background of the party or something, and, you know, there would be scary scenes on the screen at all the time, and it just, like, isn't very compelling to sit and watch all of it. It was a little overlong. But Diary of the Dead was, like, considering it was two things that I'm not, like, very hyped on, like, I'm kind of done with zombies. And I'm very done with found footage. It was pretty well done. Like, I like the fact that they cut it together like a documentary and took scenes from some of the scenes were like supposed to be from other people. Well, I gotta stop using like. They cut it together with like other videos that supposedly other people took, and they cut it together with news footage and stuff like that, and they gave like some parts a little bit of voiceover, like it was a put together documentary, and that I actually think that helped. I think that made me like it a little bit more. I wonder if I can just get him to die from his own confusion. I'm gonna go back to, oh shit, I used Confuser again. Well, now I need to use it again. And then I'll go to like, there we go. Hurt yourself. Damn it. Hurt yourself. Damn it. Alright. What the fuck was I talking about? Diary of the Dead. That and also using like the footage from the security cams and stuff, it was like surprisingly well done. And I think like a zombie attack is a good situation for like, oh, we're in trouble. It's a good situation for not having to be in a panic because zombies don't move very fast. It's not like a monster chasing you that a lot of them do. It's a little bit more believable if you're not trying to run from something. The way that you run from something in like Cloverfield or Blair Witch. I would throw that camera down. But a lot of the zombie attacks were never like such an immediate threat, or when it became one, the camera kind of turned off. So, it was okay. It was okay. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, they're starting to get, you know, campy at this point. The first one is, very good. That's my favorite. The second one, I don't know, it took itself, like, weirdly serious, and was also just, like, not very good. The third one, it got almost like had fantasy elements, but it was done in a very fun way. This one is where they're starting to become campy horror. And I hear that the fifth one's even like wackier, so can't wait. Phantasm, didn't like it. There were elements of this that I think are fun, and I've heard the sequels are a lot better, which I can easily believe. But this one just kind of misses the mark. Like, it's just not. It's not as good as I would have hoped from what I'd heard about it. But there were some cool parts, and I might consider watching the second one next year, seeing if I like it better. Descent was good. it didn't really give me much else to say about it. I thought the lighting in some parts was really bad, but then in some parts it was really, like, it really worked. You know, with the dark lighting. Because it's in a cave, so every scene has to be super fucking dark. But I think some parts worked, some parts didn't. And then the last one I watched was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. And that was way more violent than I remember it being. So, that's been my, what was that? That's 25 of 31. So, it's now the 27th, so I do have to watch 2 films at some point today, or at least 1. Like, I don't want to fall too behind. Have to watch 3 movies at some point, or 2 movies for 2 days. You know. At some point this year, I'll probably just... Well, I'm on the 3rd part of Friday the 13th, and that really is... Those movies are just something I can kind of throw on in the background. And, maybe get some cleaning done or something like that. And then Phantom of the Opera. I want to watch the Universal one because that's, you know, the one that's actually kind of a horror movie. Alright, Rick Gastley's evolving. His name won't make sense anymore. Damn. I mean, I'm keeping it, but it doesn't make sense now. So, I was kind of wondering if there's something I can do, some kind of cheat or something, if I could evolve it into Gengar. And I have been going for about 15 minutes now, so I think what I'll do is I'll stop recording, see if there's something I can do to make that happen, and then come back when I have an answer. So thanks for watching, see you next time, and have a good one.